Editing is for people who can afford it and who has that kind of patience, and right now I have neither. I have been trying to get this video out of my box into a physical format for months now, and at this point I just don't care anymore. I don't care if it sounds bad, I don't care if it looks bad. We're doing this anyway. Um this is about SCPs. I, like a lot of people who are from my generation, originally discovered the SCPs and the Foundation through Markiplier. He played SCP Containment Breach like way back in the day. It was a whole thing, and we started down this tunnel. And since then, we have gone from a couple of thousand to over 8,000 SCPs. That's a lot. Imagine 8,000 if you will. No, go bigger. That's actually 8,000 is so much more than you could probably conceptualize right now. And in that, one of the things that made the SCP Foundation stand out was their adherence to quality. The SCP Foundation is a self-governed fandom, I guess you could say, that heavily scrutinizes, like getting an article on the SCP wiki it says a lot. It goes through a lot of reviews and stuff like that, because they don't just want anybody posting onto the wiki and saying, hey, yeah, this is an SCP. Look what happened with the backrooms. The backroom started out as a simple little idea, and now everybody else came up with different levels and the different survivors, the different entities that are in it. That wasn't in the original bit. And because there is little to no regulation, you can literally fanfiction your way into the backrooms and no one can say otherwise. Well, because everything's made up anyway. It's what made the SCP Foundation stand out. There has been a lot of different videos and just different conversations going on, like, hey, is this an SCP? Just because it's weird, and because everybody finds out about SCP through content farms these days, it really stands out. I remember when people were saying, oh yeah, Siren Head's an SCP. Newsflash, no he isn't. Even so much as the original SCP, the statue, everyone referred to him as Peanut. Eventually, the actual artist of that statue, the IRL person who made the IRL statue, requested that it no longer be associated with it. And we've had changes to the lore that shows that, yeah, no, the statue looks different now. And it kind of falls into it, but that's what I mean by I've been a part of the SCP fandom for a very long time. I've seen it grow, and in my opinion, I've seen it become full of itself. What was a system of self-regulatory people who would, scrutinize, say, does this make sense? Does this fit in the SCP, air quote, canon? Now you've got dozens of unique canons that are all real and just as valid as the next. And that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is people who love to hear themselves talk but have nothing to say. And I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this. I just know it. But I need to get this off my chest before I actually go into the project that I want to work on. The big thing that I have a lot of I have so much respect for people who actually do make it onto the SCP wiki. I appreciate the amount of effort they put into it, and it is really, really cool. However, over time, I have noticed so many bits of new SCPs. They're not SCPs, they're novellas. They're short stories, and they're not even sectioned off as short stories. There is a tales section of the SCP wiki. No. The articles themselves, the SCPs themselves, are just prose. It's just fiction. And it's just people waxing poetic and writing, instead of writing a novel, which I'm sure they actually could do because of the length of some of these things. They are writing an article, writing it really, really well, and because people like reading funny stories online, they get approved. At least that's how that's got to be what's happening because of the sheer amount of just stories as SCPs. Back in, like, I don't even know when it started. It probably started probably around the 4th or 5th generation of SCP, somewhere in there. They had that's whenever you started seeing an uptick in third-person stories being the entire article. Originally, at least as far as I'm aware, the original run of SCPs was the SCP number, its danger level, information about how to contain it, and then boom, what it actually is. And that worked really well into itself, and there was lots and lots and lots of them. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for these stories, but let me continue. But more and more, you begin to see, and especially the ones that air quote get popular, the SCPs that you see now is the designation, the threat level, and then you go on this multi-page long, story arc thing that the SCP is maybe mentioned, or the effects of the SCP are mentioned, but it's more about the stories of these characters who are affected by it. And that is not, in my opinion, SCPs. That is not the SCP Foundation that I remember that the foundations were built upon. If an SCP article requires a novella worth of information told in third person with characters and with timelines, then it's not a good SCP. It's just a yap session. I cannot. Okay, one of my favorite content creators is the Exploring series, and a lot of the SCPs that are talked about now, they're just told in a third person prose. They're not even. It started with people giving like logs of like video, and it's like a text description of the video log where you would show stuff that happened. Okay, that's fine. Then it's audio logs, where it's a text transcript of an audio log of something that happened. Okay, yeah, that's fine. You can have those. You can have tons of those. The whole point is you're distilling this down into a clinical, detached engram of information. And that is what made the SCP, because it's not just, oh, I'm telling a horror story. No, it's horror looked through a clinical lens is what made it so scary, what made it so unnerving in its own way. But now, most of them are just people yapping, talking, going on and on and on, and going on about this big epic story, and this happened, and then this person, then this character, and then, oh, this person wasn't able to get with the person they wanted to, or, oh, huge subtext, and blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. The SCP Foundation started out as just a collective of horror writers writing about the weird, and the unsettling, and the uncanny, and it worked on its own. It just worked. It worked. We've gotten this far. But now, everything that you see is some short story, or a long story, or part of its own canon, or they don't even take place in the same cognitive universe. How does that make sense? And before, oh, well, it's the SCP Foundation. No. You know what I'm talking about. How does that make sense? How can an SCP that does not affect our actual ongoing living world in the realm of physicality that we are in right now, how does that qualify as an SCP if it's outside of our reality? Or the world's already dead. So, and the event, air quotes, just big nebulous, this SCP is an event that happened that in an alternate universe. How is that interesting? That on its own, unrelated to the SCP Foundation, would be great for an actual standalone horror story. But that's not what we're getting. That's not what we're getting. That's not what we're doing. And honestly, it's just kind of sad. I yearn for the old style of SCPs. Because the first one I looked up, the first one that I looked up on my own and read the article, it wasn't it wasn't the statue. I think it was just called the gun. And it was a handgun or an Uzi or something like that, I forget. But the whole thing was, on the outside it was a gun, but on the inside it was biological. The outside shell of the gun was like a carapace, and it shot teeth bullets. That is weird. And there was a diagram. Someone had drawn up like a diagram of the thing, and they just like, it is this. It is not dangerous. It shoots teeth at a certain velocity of so and so. We haven't been able to dissect it properly, but X-rays have shown that the inside of it is actually biological, and it generates the teeth for the bullets after so much time. And that's brilliant. I don't need to know much more than that, because that alone makes my mind go wild. What could have caused this? What could have made this appear? Where did this come from? How did it happen? Asking those questions is what makes that article great. Asking those questions, inspiring that thought, is what makes that article great. And I don't feel that in anything else these days. In any of the new articles, the ones that you hear about, the ones that everybody else talks about, the ones that gets videos made about them. It's just a lot of yapping. Just a lot of yapping. And I figured, why not? I'm gonna toss my head, you know, yeah, I'll toss my head into the ring too. I'm going to start demystifying the SCP Foundation. I am no longer going to look at it as if it's a, air quote, real thing, because I know it's not. But I am going to read through it and just give you the cliff notes, because honestly, that's all you really need. If that's enough to get you interested in reading it, then that's great. But if it requires a full-on book in order to be consumed and in order for it to work, I'm done playing nice. I don't care anymore. And why not? People are divisive about this subject as it is. So, yeah. We'll see how that goes. My phone has been going off like crazy. That's probably the Foundation coming to shut me down. So yeah, stick around if you're interested in that.